Emily Harrison woke up with a feeling that something was wrong. Not just wrong. Catastrophically, horribly wrong. She lay in her bed in her bedroom, sunlight streaming through the familiar blue curtains, but inside her, a hole was shining. She sat up, pressing her hand to her chest, trying to figure out what exactly was wrong. Her heart was beating steadily. Her breathing was calm. She remembered who she was. Emily Harrison, 32, an architect living in Portland. She remembered her childhood in Oregon University, her first job, but something was missing. She looked at her left hand. On her ring finger sat an engagement ring. An elegant one. A small diamond surrounded by tiny sapphires. Emily stared at it, feeling a wave of panic rise from her stomach to her throat. She was married, but she couldn't remember the wedding. Not at all. Absolutely. As if this day had never existed. Daniel, she cried, and her husband's name popped into her mind automatically. Daniel Harrison, her husband. They'd gotten married. When? She knew it had been 3 years ago. In the fall. But the wedding itself, the dress, the ceremony, the guests, their first dance, it all faded away, like a dream you try to recall after waking. Daniel appeared in the bedroom doorway, holding a cup of coffee. Tall, with dark hair and kind brown eyes, he looked worried. What happened? You were screaming so. Our wedding, she breathed. I can't remember it. He frowned, came closer, and sat on the edge of the bed. What do you mean? I remember we got married. I know it was 3 years ago, in October, but the day itself, it's gone. I don't remember what my dress looked like, where we had the ceremony, who was there. Nothing. Daniel put his hand on her shoulder. Sweetheart, that was 3 years ago. Maybe you just... No. Emily grabbed his hand. This isn't just ordinary forgetfulness. It's like someone cut that day out of my head. Yesterday I remembered it, I'm sure of it. And today it's a blank. Daniel studied her face with growing concern. You mentioned our wedding last night. You told me how your mother cried during the ceremony. You actually remembered. A chill ran down her spine. Did I say that yesterday? Yes. We were looking at our friend's wedding photos, and you started remembering our wedding. Maybe we should see a doctor? Emily nodded, but her mind was racing. This was more than a medical issue. She felt it in every fiber of her being. Someone took her memory, stole it, like a thief steals jewelry from a safe. That same day, Emily started keeping a journal. Not an ordinary journal, a survival tool. She wrote down everything she could remember. Important dates, events, people, places. She described every detail of her life she could retrieve from memory. She also wrote, Day 1. Lost my memory of the wedding. Completely. Daniel confirms that I remembered it yesterday. It's medically impossible. Memories don't disappear so selectively overnight. I feel like it's not a coincidence. A visit to Dr. Samantha Chan the next day revealed nothing. An MRI showed her brain was completely healthy. No tumors, no signs of Alzheimer's or dementia. Dr. Chan suspected stress and prescribed a mild sedative. Sometimes traumatic memories can get blocked, she explained. Your mind can protect you from something painful. But Emily knew her wedding wasn't a traumatic event. It was a happy day. It was meant to be. The next morning, she woke up and immediately grabbed her journal. She read the last entry, then again, and again. She wrote about losing the memory of her wedding. But now there was a second paragraph, written in her own handwriting, which she didn't remember. Day 2. Lost my first kiss with Daniel. It was in the park in the fall. I remember the context. We'd been dating for a month. But the moment itself was gone. I wrote about it last night right after I realized. Oh God, it's happening again. Emily looked at the date. She was right, she had written this yesterday. But she had no memory of it at all. No memory of the realization of loss. No memory of sitting down to write it. And she didn't remember her first kiss with Daniel. Her hands shook. Daniel entered the room. Are you okay? You look pale. It's happening again, she whispered. I'm losing my memories. Every day. Daniel, I don't remember our first kiss. He paled. You remembered it yesterday. We talked about it. I know. I wrote about it. But now. She tapped her temple. There's nothing there. Over the next week, the nightmare only intensified. Day 3. The memory of her nephew Tommy's birth vanished. She remembered his birth, knew his age, but couldn't recall the moment of joy when she first held him in her arms. Day 4. The memory of her university graduation vanished. The ceremony, the diploma, her parents' pride, all vanished. Day 5. Her first architecture award. She knew she'd won for her public library design, but the moment of triumph when her name was announced was gone. Day 6. Her grandmother's death. And it was strange. She remembered her grandmother alive, remembered that she died 5 years ago, remembered the grief. But she didn't remember the funeral itself, the final farewell. Day 7. The day she found out she was pregnant. This loss broke her. Emily collapsed on the kitchen floor, sobbing. Daniel held her, crying himself. Their daughter, Sophie, was now 2 years old. But Emily no longer remembered that magical moment when she saw 2 lines on the pregnancy test. The explosion of happiness and fear as she told Daniel the news. "Someone is doing this to me," she said through her tears. "Someone is stealing my life piece by piece." Daniel didn't argue. He could no longer deny the obvious. "How can we stop someone we can't see?" he asked helplessly. Emily wiped away her tears. A steely glint lit her eyes. "We'll find a way. I won't let this thief take everything." She began researching. She spent hours in libraries and on the internet, studying everything from neurology to paranormal phenomena. Most of the material was useless, but a few leads seemed promising. She stumbled upon a forum for people experiencing similar phenomena. A user named memorykeeper described the exact same symptoms. Selective memory loss, 1 per day, of only important moments. Emily sent him a private message. A reply came a few hours later. "You're not alone. They're called abductors. No one knows what they are, parasites, entities, a psychological phenomenon. But they're real. They feed on our memories, the most vivid, the most emotional. For me, it lasted 3 months before I found a way to stop it. Meet me. You need help and time is short. Soon it will start taking away earlier memories. Childhood. Parents. Your very identity." They met at a small cafe in downtown Portland. Memorykeeper turned out to be a man in his 50s, with graying hair and tired eyes that had seen too much. He introduced himself as Michael Thorne. "Tell me everything from the beginning," he asked as they sat down at a table in the corner. Emily told her. About waking up with no memory of her wedding. About daily losses. About growing fear and helplessness. Michael listened, nodding. "A classic case," he finally said. "The kidnapper chose you. They usually target people with rich emotional lives, vivid memories. Artists, writers, people with strong feelings." "What are they?" Emily asked. "Where do they come from?" "Nobody knows for sure. There are theories. Some believe they're interdimensional parasites. Others think they're psychic constructs generated by the collective unconscious. I met someone who believed they were demons." Michael shrugged. "Ultimately, it doesn't matter what they are. What matters is how to stop them. And how? You need to see him. The Snatcher. They're invisible most of the time, existing on the edge of perception. But there are moments, usually in dreams, when you can see them. They come to take your memories when you're most vulnerable." Emily leaned forward. "How can I see him?" Michael pulled a small vial of dark liquid from his pocket. "It's an infusion. A very old recipe, passed down among those who know about snatchers. Wormwood, mandrake, a few other ingredients. Drink it before bed. It will expand your perception, allowing you to see what's usually hidden." "And then what?" "When I see him, then you'll be able to talk to him, bargain, or fight." Michael's eyes darkened. "But be careful. They're ancient and powerful, and they don't like being discovered." Emily took the vial. "You said you stopped your captor. How?" Michael was silent for a long moment, staring into his coffee cup. "I made a deal," he said finally. "I gave him one memory of my choice in exchange for him leaving me alone forever." "And which memory did you give him?" His face turned stony. "The most precious thing. The day I met my wife. We're still together, still in love. But I don't remember how it all began. I don't remember the magic of that first meeting." He looked Emily straight in the eyes. "That's the price. You might have to pay it. Or find another way. That night, Emily took the infusion. It was bitter, burning her throat. Daniel sat next to her, holding her hand. "I'm scared," she admitted. "I'll be here," he promised. "All night. If something goes wrong." "I know." She lay down, and he covered her with the blanket. The infusion's effects were immediate. The world became softer, blurry at the edges. Colors became more vivid. She heard every sound with incredible clarity. The ticking of the clock, Daniel's breathing, the rustle of the wind outside the window, and something else. A whisper. Quiet, almost elusive. In a language she didn't understand, but which seemed strangely familiar, like the memory of a long-forgotten song. Emily closed her eyes and allowed herself to drift off to sleep. She stood in empty space. Not in the darkness. The space was white, endless, without walls or ceiling. But she wasn't alone. A figure stood a few feet away. It was tall, very tall, and its shape was constantly changing. Sometimes it looked human-like. Sometimes it became something completely alien. The only constant were its arms. Long, too long, with slender fingers. And its eyes. A multitude of eyes, opening and closing all over its body, each a different color. Emily felt a paralyzing fear, but forced herself to speak. "It's you," she said. "You're stealing my memories." The figure bowed its head. When it spoke, its voice sounded like many voices superimposed on each other. "I'm not stealing. I'm accepting what's offered to me. I didn't offer anything. I did." The creature took a step closer. "That night. The night of despair. You called to me." Emily frowned, searching her memory. Which night? And then she remembered. 2 months ago. A terrible day at work, when her project was rejected. Problems with Sophie, who was sick and cried all night. A fight with Daniel over something stupid. She was exhausted, broken, and in a moment of weakness, lying in bed, she whispered into the darkness. "I would give anything to forget this day. Let it just not happen." "It was just a phrase," Emily said. "I didn't mean. Words have power." The creature spread its long fingers. "You summoned me. I came. You offered a deal, everything for oblivion, and I accepted. But you're taking the wrong day. You're taking my wedding, my daughter's birth, everything important. You offered everything." The creature's voice rang with something like pleasure. "I'll take it all. A piece every day. Your brightest moments, your most delicious. Suffering makes them even sweeter." Emily felt anger flare inside her, burning away her fear. "No, I won't agree to this. Give them back. Give me back my memories." The creature laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "They've already been eaten. Digested. Became a part of me. Impossible to return. Then I will break our deal." "The deal cannot be broken. Only changed." The creature took another step closer. Now Emily could see images floating in its eyes, her images. Fragments of her lost memories. But change comes with a price. What price? A choice. The creature extended one long arm. A glowing orb appeared in its palm. Inside it, Emily saw a face. Daniel's. "You can keep all the memories of your husband. Every moment of your love. Every smile, every touch. In exchange, I'll take everything else. Your parents. Your friends. Your career. Your child." "No," Emily recoiled. "Or," the creature extended its other hand, revealing another orb, this one with little Sophie's face. "You keep the child. Every moment of motherhood. In exchange, you'll give up everything else, including your husband." This is monstrous. It's a choice. The creature bowed its head. "Or don't choose, and I'll continue taking one memory every day until there's nothing left. In a few months, you won't remember your name. You'll become an empty shell, alive but not living." Emily felt tears roll down her cheeks. There must be another way. There is always another way. The creature removed its hands, and the orbs disappeared. "Give me what I really want. What I crave most." "And what is it?" The eyes on the creature's body began to blink in unison. "The most powerful memory of all. The one that defines you. The core memory from which everything else grows. Give it to me, and I will return everything I took. I will never bother you again. What memory? The one you choose. But it must be the true core. The moment that made you who you are. Emily felt the world begin to dim. The infusion was wearing off. Do I have to decide now? You have 3 days. The creature began to dissolve. 3 days to choose. Otherwise, I will take the decision out of your hands. Emily woke up gasping for breath. Daniel immediately hugged her. What happened? You were screaming in your sleep. She told him everything. About the creature. About the choice. About the 3 days. Daniel paled. A core memory? What does that even mean? I don't know. Emily got out of bed and began pacing. But I have to understand. This is our only chance. She contacted Michael Thorne again. They met at the same cafe. A core memory, Michael repeated thoughtfully. It's rare. The Snatchers don't usually offer such an exchange. Do you know what it is? Theoretically, it's the moment that defines your personality. Not necessarily the happiest or the brightest, but the most formative. The moment you became yourself. He looked at her seriously. Giving it away is like erasing the foundation of a building. The building may remain standing, but it will be different. You will be different. How different? It's impossible to say. Maybe a little. Maybe completely. You'll retain most of your memories, but your personality, your values, your choices, everything could change. You might fall out of love with the people you once loved. Or love the things you hated. The Emily Harrison of old might be completely different from the Emily who exists now. Emily covered her face with her hands. How can I choose between this and losing everything? There's one more option, Michael said quietly. You could try to kill him. She raised her head. Kill him? Is that possible? There are legends. Ancient rituals. But they're dangerous. If you fail, the creature will become angry. Could take everything at once. Or worse, take not your memories but your future. Make it so you can't form new memories. You'll live in an eternal present, each moment vanishing as soon as it passes. Emily trembled. But is that possible? I know a man. He's been studying this his whole life. He lives like a hermit in the mountains 3 hours from here. His name is Father Domenico. He used to be an exorcist, but the church disowned him when he started talking about the Snatchers. Michael wrote the address on a napkin. If anyone knows how to fight these creatures, it's him. The next day, Emily and Daniel left Sophie with Daniel's parents and drove into the mountains. The address led them to a small house on the edge of the forest, almost hidden by the trees. An old man of about 70, with a long gray beard and piercing blue eyes, opened the door. Michael called. He said by way of greeting, "Come in." Inside, the house was filled with books. They were piled everywhere, on shelves, on tables, on the floor. Most were ancient, with cracked leather bindings. Strange symbols and diagrams hung on the walls. Father Domenico? Emily asked. Just Domenico. I'm not your father anymore. He gestured to the worn sofa. Sit. Tell me about your kidnapper. Emily told everything for the 3rd time. Domenico listened silently, nodding occasionally. He offered to exchange a root memory, he said finally. That means he's strong. Young Snatchers can't make such proposals. Yours is probably hundreds of years old. Maybe thousands. Michael said they could be killed. Domenico chuckled. Kill isn't the right word. Banish, bind, dissolve, yes. But that requires preparation. And risk. I'm willing to take the risk. The old man studied her face with a long gaze. You must understand. These creatures feed on memories, because memories are pure emotion, crystallized in time. They are not inherently evil, any more than a wolf hunts a deer. They are simply hungry. Are you protecting him? Emily's voice grew sharp. No, I'm explaining, because the banishment method is based on understanding their nature. Domenico stood up and walked over to one of the bookshelves, pulling out a thick tome. Snatchers exist in symbiosis with memory. To banish one, you must create a memory so powerful, so pure, that it becomes poison for it. An emotional overdose. Like poisoning a parasite by feeding it too much food. And how do you create such a memory? By confronting the absolute truth about yourself. a moment of complete self-knowledge and acceptance. He opened the book, revealing a page with a diagram. There is a ritual, a very ancient one. It will guide you through your own memories, to the very core of your personality, to who you truly are, without masks or self-deception. If you can face this truth and accept it, the memory of that acceptance will destroy the snatcher. And if I can't accept it? Emily asked quietly. Then you will break. The mind can't always handle the complete truth about itself. Some go mad. Others become catatonic. Domenico closed the book. That's why I ask, are you sure? Maybe it's easier to give up the core memory. Yes, you'll change, but you'll remain alive and relatively unharmed. Emily looked at Daniel. He took her hand. I will support any choice you make, he said. She returned her gaze to Domenico. Tell me about the ritual. She had 2 days before her deadline. Domenico explained that the ritual must be performed on the night of her deadline, at the moment of greatest tension between her and the abductor. The preparation was intense. Emily had to fast, meditate, and read certain texts. Domenico gave her an ancient book. It was written in a language she didn't recognize, but when she looked at the symbols, their meanings floated through her mind, as if she'd always known them. Know thyself, for in knowledge lies strength. In acceptance lies freedom. In truth lies the weapon against darkness. Daniel stayed with her in Domenico's cabin. He couldn't participate in the ritual, but he could be nearby. Sophie was safe with her grandparents, who had been told Emily was undergoing special treatment. That first night, Emily couldn't sleep. She thought about her entire life, trying to figure out which memory might be the root. Was it her father's death when she was 12? That moment taught her that life is fragile, that every day should be cherished. Or was it the moment she first saw a building designed by a famous architect and realized she wanted to create beauty? Or meeting Daniel, the first time she felt truly understood? Or Sophie's birth, when she experienced a love so intense she was willing to die for that little creature? But the more she thought about it, the less certain she was. Every memory seemed important, but none felt like the root. On the second day, Domenico said, "You're trying to find the answer with your mind. But the root memory isn't in your head. It's in your heart, in your soul. The ritual will show you. Trust the process." That evening, he began preparing the space. He cleared the large room of furniture and drew a circle on the floor with salt. Inside the circle, he painted complex symbols with red ochre. "You will stand in the center," he explained. "I will read words of power. They will open the doors of your memory, all at once. You will experience your entire life in a few minutes. It will be overwhelming. Don't resist. Ride the current of memories until you reach the center." "How will I recognize the center?" "You will." Domenico placed his hand on her shoulder. "And when you reach it, accept what you see. Even if it hurts. Even if it's shameful. Even if it's scary. Acceptance is the key." At midnight, Emily stood in the center of the circle. She was barefoot, dressed in a simple white shirt and pants. Her hair was loose. Her heart was pounding. Daniel sat in the corner of the room, his face pale in the candlelight. Domenico began to sing. The words were in an ancient language, guttural and powerful. The air in the room grew heavy, vibrating. Emily felt something break inside her, and memories came flooding back. All at once, every moment of her life, from birth to this second, crashed over her like a tsunami. She saw herself as a baby in her mother's arms. First steps. First word. First day of school. Falling off her bike. Kissing Jason Miller in 7th grade. The smell of freshly cut grass in summer. The taste of Grandma's lemon pie. The feel of her velvet dress at graduation. Her father in the hospital, his hand so cold in hers. University. Sleepless nights over blueprints. Daniel. His smile. His voice, pregnancy. Childbirth. Pain and miracle. Sophie. Her tiny fingers, clasping her hand. All this and more, millions of moments. A mosaic of life. All the pixels that made up the picture of her existence. And Emily was drowning in this ocean. She tried to breathe, but memories filled her lungs. She tried to think, but memories flooded her mind. Swim, she remembered Domenico's words. Don't resist, she stopped struggling. She let the memories carry her. And slowly, The current began to guide her. Not by chance, but purposefully. Memories rushed past, but some pulled harder. They formed a path, a river in the ocean, leading somewhere. Toward the center. Emily followed. And she reached a place she didn't recognize. She was little. Very little. 5, 6. She stood in her old childhood room, the one she had before she moved to a new house. Pink wallpaper with unicorns. A teddy bear on the bed. And she was crying. Adult Emily watched this scene confused. She didn't remember this moment. How was this possible? The ritual was supposed to trigger her own memories. Little Emily sat on the floor, hugging her knees, sobbing. "It's my fault," she whispered. "I'm bad. I did this." And suddenly, adult Emily remembered. Oh God. She remembered that it was 2 years before her father died. Her parents fought. A lot. She heard their screams at night, though they tried to be quiet. One afternoon, when they thought she was playing in the garden, she overheard a particularly violent conversation. Her mother said, "If it weren't for her, I would have left long ago. I don't love you anymore, John. Maybe I never did. But I can't leave her." Her father replied, "Do you think I'm happy? Do you think this is what I wanted in life?" And little Emily, hiding behind the door, understood. She was the cause of their unhappiness. If she weren't there, they would be free. And in that moment, that terrible moment, she made a decision. The unconscious, profound decision of a 5-year-old that I have to be perfect. I have to earn their love. I have to be good enough to be worth their suffering. And her whole life from that moment on was built on that foundation. Perfectionism, inability to accept failure, the constant need to prove her worth. Choosing a career as an architect, creating something perfect, durable, beautiful. Even Daniel's choice, the man who accepted her, who told her she didn't have to be perfect. Even motherhood, the desire to give Sophie what she herself hadn't felt as a child. Unconditional love. Everything, absolutely everything, grew out of that moment of pain. Adult Emily fell to her knees next to her 5-year-old self. "It's not your fault," she whispered. "Sweetheart, it was never your fault." Little Emily raised her tear-stained face. "But they're unhappy because of me." "No, they're unhappy because of their own choices. You're a child. You're not responsible for adults' happiness." Emily hugged her younger self, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You are enough. You've always been enough. Just because you exist. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to be perfect. You deserve to be loved just for being you." Little Emily hugged her back. And something broke. Or was fixed. It was hard to tell. Emily felt the pain she'd carried her entire life. A pain she hadn't even acknowledged, begin to dissolve. The weight she'd carried for so long that she'd mistaken it for a part of herself, began to lift. Acceptance. She accepted that little girl. Accepted her fear and pain. Accepted that her entire life had been built on a childhood wound. And in that acceptance, she found freedom. The room began to brighten. Little Emily smiled. For the first time, she truly smiled. And began to dissolve, turning into light. And Emily returned to the present. She stood in the circle, still barefoot, still in tears. Domenico finished singing. The silence was deafening. But she was not alone. The kidnapper was here. He materialized before her, his form writhing and trembling. Eyes all over his body were wide open, filled with agony. "What have you done?" His voice was hoarse, full of pain. "What is this?" Emily understood. The memory she had just created. The memory of absolute acceptance, of healing the deepest wound, was too pure, too powerful. For a creature that fed on pain, fear, loss, it was an overdose of joy. "I found myself," she said simply. The kidnapper made a sound like a scream. His form began to disintegrate. "Impossible. No one finds true acceptance. There's always a shadow." "Not this time." Emily felt the power in her words. "I saw my shadow. I accepted it. I'm not afraid anymore." The creature collapsed halfway around the circle. The salt began to glow. The symbols lit up. "Curse you." It hissed. "Curse you." And then it began to dissolve. Not disappear, return. Images began to pour from his disintegrating body. Memories. All the memories it stole. Emily saw her wedding. She in a white dress, Daniel in a suit. Tears of joy on the guests' faces. Their first kiss under a tree in the park, leaves falling around them. The birth of her nephew Tommy, his tiny face, so perfect. Graduation, her name announced with pride. The library award, her acceptance speech at Grandma's funeral, the final farewell. And the pregnancy test, 2 pink lines. Daniel screaming with happiness that it all came back. A stream of memories flowed back into her mind, finding their place, filling the voids. The kidnapper let out a final, weak groan and vanished completely. Emily fell to her knees, overwhelmed by the return of her life. Daniel rushed toward her, but Domenico stopped him. Wait. She needs to integrate them. Give me a moment. Emily closed her eyes and let the memories settle. Each one found its place. Each one became a part of her again. And they were different now. Not because they had changed, but because she had changed. She looked at her wedding through the eyes of someone who no longer needed perfection. It had been a beautiful day, with all its little imperfections. The dress was a little long. The DJ had mixed up one song. Her uncle had gotten drunk. And all of it was perfect precisely because it was real. She watched Sophie's birth and saw not only joy, but also fear, pain, doubt. And she accepted it all. Every memory was fuller now, richer. Finally, she opened her eyes and smiled. I'm back, she whispered. Daniel hugged her, and she felt his tears on her neck. 3 months passed. Emily sat in her office, working on a new project, a community center for veterans. The work was going well, but in a different way than before. She no longer obsessed over every detail, no longer scolded herself for every mistake. The process had become easier, more joyful. A journal sat on her desk. She still wrote in it every day, but now it wasn't a tool for fear, but simply a way of reflection. The last entry read, Today Sophie said a complete sentence for the first time. Mom, I love you. I cried tears of happiness. And I know that memory will stay with me. Not because I cling to it in fear of losing it, but because it's true. Her phone vibrated. A message from Michael Thorne. How are you? Are you okay? She replied. Better than okay. Thanks for your help. Good to hear. By the way, there's another woman going through the same thing. I gave her your contact information. I hope you don't mind? Emily thought for a moment. Then she wrote, Not at all. Call anytime. She could help. She'd been through it and survived. What's more, she'd grown stronger. That evening at home, Daniel was cooking dinner while Emily played with Sophie. The little girl was building a tower of blocks, her tongue lolling out in concentration. Hi, Sophie announced when the tower reached her shoulder. Very high, Emily agreed. You're a wonderful builder. Just like Mom. Emily smiled. Just like Mom. Yes. Later, when Sophie was asleep and Daniel and Emily were sitting on the couch with glasses of wine, he asked, What are you thinking about? About how strange it is. Emily looked at the fire in the fireplace. The kidnapper took my memories and it was terrible. But in the process of getting them back, I found something more. I found myself. The real me. Are you sorry? Daniel asked quietly. I know you've changed. Sometimes I see it in your eyes. You see things differently. I don't regret it. She took his hand. I'm different, that's true. But I still love you. Maybe even more because now I understand why I chose you. Not because I needed your approval, but because you're a good person. Because we're well suited for each other. Daniel kissed her. I love you too. The new you. The old you. Any version of you. That night, before she went to bed, Emily opened the journal for the last time. She wrote, I thought memories defined us. And they do, but not in the way I thought. It's not the events themselves that make us who we are. It's how we hold them. How we integrate them. How we learn from them. The kidnapper tried to take my history. Instead, he made me understand it. I'm grateful. It sounds crazy, but I'm grateful. Because now I'm free. She closed the journal, turned off the light, and lay down next to her husband. And she slept dreamlessly. The deep, restful sleep of someone who has finally come to terms with her past and is not afraid of the future. Emily stood before a group of 5 people in the small room she'd rented at the community center. They all had one thing in common. They'd all survived encounters with the Snatchers. "My name is Emily," she began. "And I lost 17 memories before I learned to fight back." This was the beginning of the support group. Michael Thorne helped her organize it. Domenico provided resources. And now, once a week, Snatcher victims gathered here to share stories, support each other, and learn to defend themselves. Because as it turned out, there were a lot of Snatchers. Not an epidemic, but enough to warrant help. Among the participants was a young mother named Samira, who had lost the memory of her son's first words. An elderly man named Robert, who had forgotten the anniversary of his 50th marriage. A teenager named Kyle, who couldn't remember the day his sister died, and felt guilty about it. Emily helped them all. She taught them rituals of protection. She taught them to look within themselves, to find their core wounds, and to heal them. Not everyone succeeded in defeating their abductors. Some chose Michael's path, making a deal, giving up one memory for peace. But some found the strength to fight. And they won. After the meeting, a new participant approached Emily, a woman in her 40s with tired eyes. "Does it really work?" she asked. "This whole ritual, this acceptance, can it really stop them?" Emily looked at her with understanding and compassion. "It works. But not because it's magic, although there is a magical component. It works because the abductors feed on our pain, our unhealed wounds. When we heal ourselves, we deprive them of food. We become poison to them." "And you really got all your memories back?" "All of them." Emily smiled. "And I gained something more. I gained myself." That night, at home, while Sophie slept and Daniel worked in his study, Emily went out onto the balcony and looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, in the space between worlds, the Snatchers still existed. Hungry, ancient, hunting for memories. But she was no longer afraid. Because she knew the secret. True memory isn't in the past. It's in how we live in the present. In how we choose to create moments worth remembering. Emily closed her eyes and created a new memory. Right here, right now. A memory of standing under the stars, feeling the cool breeze on her skin, knowing she was strong, knowing she was whole, knowing she was enough, exactly as she was. And no Snatcher could take that from her. Because she guarded it not with the fear of loss, but with the joy of possession. She opened her eyes, took a deep breath, and smiled into the darkness. "Just try," she whispered into the night. "Try to take it back." There was no answer. And that was good. Emily returned to her home, to her husband, to her daughter, to her life that to her history, which no one could steal now. The end.